So, how can you prepare yourself if you live in an apartment tower? We are joined now by Cmdr Mark Carter from the Metropolitan Fire Brigade in Melbourne. Thank you so much for joining us. I guess anyone who lives in an apartment building, seeing the terrible event in London, would be, you know, concerned. Could this happen here in Australia? Could we see a similar incident?
Good morning, ladies. I suppose the answer to that question is it is possible. We do have, as the Building Minister pointed out, some exceptionally good building codes in Australia. We do have a requirement that any building over 25 metres is sprinkler protected and has a range of other fire safety elements in it. So that is encouraging for the residents of those sort of building stock. The fire brigades around Australia, though, do have a concern for buildings under that height, under 25 metres height, which in stories could equate to an 8-storey building and under, that they're not provided with the same level of fire protection. It's not mandatory to provide sprinkler protection. And so that is an area where we do have a heightened level of risk, particularly if that building also includes one of these combustible facade products.
There's call now, Cmdr, for an audit. Do you think an audit is the correct expression of what we need here? Do we know what's in what building? Do we know what sprinklers work? Is it audited regularly anyway?
I think I'd like to take that in two parts. If we're talking about a facade product, the simple answer to that is unless an audit is done on the original building plans and looking into not only the plans but what was actually provided and fitted on the building, we have no knowledge of what has actually been installed as a facade product. It's too complex an issue to do a street side inspection to be able to establish whether that is a highly combustible aluminium composite panel with like a polyethylene core, or one of the products that has a fire-resistant mineral core. In respect of fire safety systems, though, we do know what the building provided with. We do know that those systems are part of a maintenance regime, and that's the part that, you know, body corporate and strata title management groups can play an active role in making sure those maintenance schedules are maintained.
So what do you need to do if you live in an apartment? What can you do to prepare yourself in case of fire? Okay,
it's a really good question, because I think everyone has a part to play with their responsibility in fire safety. It's probably seen as a boring topic for a lot of people, but we as fire services would like to have it put up there with, you know, energy efficiency and all those other things that you look for when you're buying an apartment or buying a house. The part that occupants can play, first of all, is to reduce the amount of combustibles that they may store in areas such as balconies. We've had an increasing rise in the amount of fires on balconies, and largely caused by discarded cigarette butts. So that's number one thing, and they can, if they've got a barbecue on that balcony, they can make sure that you know, when they're using that barbecue, that it's a certain distance from combustible items, from walls, from electrical fittings. They can also ensure that inside their apartment that they've got a working smoke alarm, and you know, we constantly see smoke alarms inside apartments that have been covered up with alfoil or shower caps to avoid them going off when they, you know, burn the toast or whatever. But they're your number one line of detection and alert for sleeping occupants. And as surprising as it seems, a lot of occupants within high-rise buildings aren't that familiar with their fire exits, because we're creatures of habit. We take the lift all the time. So just having a good understanding of where your fire exits are, use them regularly. So, you know, hopefully your building is over a certain height is provided with 2 of those. Make sure the doors on those close and seal properly, because these are all general maintenance things, including exit lights, that if you find an issue in your building, that you should be reporting it through your body corporate committee structure. And if you don't get any satisfaction through that, feel free to also report it to your local fire brigade.
Cmdr Carter, just what we've got, I wanted to check with you, in the event of a fire, do you think that you should just get yourself out, or should you knock on the neighbours' doors? Should there be a drill? What do you think?
I'm glad you included should there be a drill, because I think it's first of all, if you're over 25-metre high building, it's mandatory that you do an evacuation drill once a year. But I would like, owners to take some responsibility and occupants to say, through their body corporate structure, that we should be practising a drill more frequently than this. What we're finding in the apartment sector is that it's been a changing beast over the last decade, that we've got a large percentage of owners that live overseas. They're investment properties. We've got a large percentage of those properties that are used in the Airbnb type environment. So what that means is, an apartment is effectively become a hotel room, and the impact on that for us is that we've got short-term transitory occupation that they're not that familiar with their environment.
Good points.
Yep.
If you do know that you live in a building that has this flammable cladding, does the fire plan change? Is it different for you?
Effectively, it is different for the responding fire service, that's for sure. But if you're an occupant, it just really should be at the moment a point of heightened awareness that, it should be a trigger that we must do some sound evacuation planning. We must sort of make sure that our maintenance schedule on all the fire safety equipment is rigorously maintained. And this gets into, I suppose, the economics of the body corporate strata type management, that unfortunately what we're finding throughout the industry is cheapest is not always best. Apartment complexes are becoming by nature far more complex. They've got far more moving parts with things like smoke management systems, and some of the maintenance companies out there are either ill-equipped technically to conduct complex maintenance issues, or they're just not delivering the service that they should be.
Yeah.
Cmdr Mark Carter, really appreciate your time. Thank you so much from the Metropolitan Fire Brigade in Melbourne there. Very important message. Well, now, of course, for the reaction of the building industry too to these concerns about the fire risk of apartments here. And we're joined from Brisbane by Paul Bidwell, Queensland Master Builders Deputy CEO. Paul, we also appreciate you joining us too. Just looking at this flammable cladding material, I mean, do we know how many buildings in Australia have this, and how extensively has it been used in building here in Australia?
Good morning, Prue. Good morning, Bridie. It's been used extensively. My understanding is that lightweight panel, that composite panel, has been used since the mid-90s.